Hey, lovely freaks, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm your host, Amanda.
And I'm Hannah.
And today...
And I'm
Hannah.
Hannah. The sideshow, the freak, the laughter. She's your host, and I'm the one who entertains.
Okay, that was awesome. Anyways, so if you're new here, hi, welcome. If you want to go ahead and hit that subscribe button, you can do that. You can also follow us, and you can go down to the description box, and it'll have a Linktree link, and it'll tell you where all of our social media is. So today we have a bonus episode for you guys, and this one's going to be a short one.
I don't even know what it is.
Yeah. But we kind of wanted to give you guys a little break from Dahmer.
Jeffrey, yeah.
So in between all this craziness, so we just kind of decided to throw this in there. So yeah. First of all, I want to say I did watch the Night Stalker.
You did?
Thing, and if y'all haven't watched it, you should, on Netflix. Yeah, what a piece of shit. Like, yeah. He was a piece of shit anyways, but like, I didn't realize how many women how many kids he like abducted from their beds, like molested them, raped them, and then like, okay, bye, and then put them back in their bed or left them in the middle of the street.
And that girl, she was so brave. That young girl.
The 6-year-old, yeah. And then I also didn't realize that I don't know, there's just a bunch of stuff I didn't realize, I guess.
Y'all need to watch it, because there's a lot of stuff that you thought you would know, but there's like a lot of stuff that like is new that I didn't know. And also it has more perspective of the people instead of the Night Stalker, because they're not glorifying the Night Stalker. They're more like,
oh, I know what I was gonna say. The women.
Yeah.
You were right. Like, why? I don't understand that. I can't wrap my brain around it.
The women?
The women that were like sending him nudes of themselves in
mm-hmm.
court and all that. And then what he said at the end, basically saying that he was like, you know, the devil.
I didn't make it this way. The society made me this way.
And he was talking about how he was like basically like the devil or whatever. Or I don't even remember.
And then, oh my God.
But I was just like, wow.
But like the part where he was in the trial,
mm-hmm.
and they got done with it, and he had a pentagram, and he went, the way he said it, "Hell, Satan." Like super, and they were all like, and I was like, he said it so fucking like
baby bitch boy.
Yeah. Hell, Satan.
And he looked like a bitch in the back of that police car whenever they were beating his ass.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, well, that's what you get. That's why you have to kill men first, because you're a bitch and you don't know how to fight. So
yeah, he had a thing all the way around his head, wrapped around his head.
Yeah, they beat his ass.
He probably was like, "You're gonna have to wrap it all around my head. They just hurt me.
There's blood everywhere.
There's blood everywhere, man." I can hear him.
Oh man. Anyways, yeah, you should go watch it though. It's pretty good, and you can watch it. I don't know. I watched it all in like a few hours, probably like 2, maybe 3 hours. I mean, it wasn't very long, so. Okay, so today, we're talking about the Waverly Hills Sanatorium. So, some of you might know what this is, and if you live in Louisville, Kentucky, then you do know what it is. So it's basically like a really haunted place.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to just kind of talk about the history of it and why it's so haunted, and then kind of like an event that happens at the end, but let's just dive on in. So, the sanatorium is located in southwest Louisville, Kentucky, and was opened in 1910. I think it was kind of started construction in 1910, because I couldn't figure out. Some reports said 1910, some said 1920. So if I'm wrong, whatever, 1910, 1920, somewhere in there. It was one of the most state-of-the-art facilities built for treatment of tuberculosis.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people believe that there's like tons of ghosts, and they even have like ghost tours and things like that nowadays for this place. It's huge. I'll put a picture up.
Where is it?
It's Waverly Hills Sanatorium. It's in Louisville, Kentucky.
Oh, okay.
You could look up a picture right now. It's really pretty too, like, and massive. It's considered to be one of the most haunted places in America. TB, I'm going to call tuberculosis TB and shorten it.
Okay.
So TB kills most anyone it comes in contact with by attacking the lungs, and it basically like suffocates people. So it was a virus that, you know, they didn't have a cure for. Over time, it can also spread to your bones and your organs. Before 1940s, TB had no cure. Doctors told patients to just get fresh air, sunlight, proper food for their diet, and it might help the symptoms.
I just looked up the picture. It's freaking huge.
It's huge, yeah.
It's like not even like, it's just wrapped around. It looks like it kind of wraps around. It's so huge.
So patients you could live with tuberculosis for like years, and you would just have the symptoms, but the symptoms were like excruciatingly painful. So Waverly Hills was open for these patients. It's 5 stories tall and about 1,080 square foot, with comforts like phones and audio systems. The medical facility could accommodate 400 patients comfortably, maybe more. And one of the major things about the facility was it had large windows, and I'm sure you saw that in the pictures, so that way they could get, you know, the proper sunlight that they needed. Especially if it was like wintertime and it was too cold to go outside, they could get the sunlight and all that. It was a very upscale sanatorium with self-sufficient commodities so like they grew their own food, they had their own post office. They had their own post office.
You know, like any other person.
They had their own post office. They had their own, like, pretty much everything. Even the nurses and the doctors,
really cool.
like, they lived there. And a lot of the times, like, the nurses and doctors, like, if you went there, I mean, you could have possibly contracted TB. So, I mean, even though they were careful, but it could have happened. So there was no guarantee that you would be going back to wherever you came from, because you could have died, you know, if you got it. So yeah, in the early stages of TB, patients would have classes they could take to help keep them busy, and they would learn like different hobbies and things like that if they ever did recover. But most patients, however, didn't get a chance to leave, because tuberculosis is, back then, it was almost like a death sentence for sure. Most of the surgeries for TB were pretty brutal and barbaric, and anesthesia was limited because patients could die if given too much, and this resulted in some patients feeling every single thing that would happen during surgery. From that, the result would be death, like if they felt too much of the pain. So you can imagine how many people died during these surgeries that they were trying to do, because they didn't really know what they were doing. They were just trying to see whatever worked, but they couldn't give them too much anesthesia to put them under, because they could die from that and not wake up again. So one of the surgeries involved doctors pushing balloons into the lungs to expand the infected lung cavities.
They were awake.
They weren't awake, but they weren't fully...
So they were kind of like drunk. But not really, but you know, like a drunk stated. Yeah. But still. Another
involved removing some of the patient's ribs, like 7 or 8 ribs, so it would allow for the infected lungs to like have more room to breathe and expand more comfortably. The most dangerous procedure was cracking open the chest and exposing the lungs and using a UV light to try to see if they could kill some of the infection. All the surgeries unfortunately failed. And so
they all failed.
Yeah, all the surgeries failed. The hearses would pull up to the front doors of the sanatorium to collect the bodies in the early ages when the hospital first opened. However, in order to not have so many hearses show up and make the patients feel like, okay, we're all going to die, you know. Yeah. They made a body chute it was the old railroad. So it was supposed to be used as a rail system, like for the tunnels where they could carry like cargo to the sanatorium. Yeah. But the doctors decided to start just putting bodies down there and getting them out that way. So, you know.
It sounds like, you know that place, American Horror Story?
Kinda, but
it kind of sounds like that because they had
they're
underground
insane.
too.
Yeah. That might have been where they got their inspiration from, though.
Yeah, because
so one
it's
of
really
the
big
stories about the ghost in the house, in the sanatorium. She was a little girl, and what happened was she was a TB patient, and so this is just a story about this ghost. People say that they see this little girl ghost, but they don't, we don't know how she really died. So this is like the story that they kind of made up for her. Well, we do know how she died. Let me rephrase that, but we don't know if I'm trying to make sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't. What are you talking about?
Like, we don't know how this person actually...
But they have stories?
If this person is an actual... Yeah, it's not like this ghost walked up and was like, hey, let me tell you how I died. Yeah. They just, like, guessed that this could have been the girl that died this way, and now she's the ghost. Okay. There we go. Okay. So her story is that she got the surgery, but she felt pretty much everything. During surgery, they were even having to, like, hold her down. And they were like cracking her chest open to do the UV stuff. But because of that, like so much like anxiety and all that, her heart just pretty much gave out. Plus the pain.
That is, I hate to die like that. Someone literally cracking your lungs open.
And your chest, yes. So, there's a lot of paranormal activity in this tunnel, obviously. However, you can only walk halfway down the tunnel because some of it has collapsed on the other side. They say that if you go there today, you will see shadows, hear voices, maybe even get pushed or punched, and get your hair pulled as well.
Violent.
I know, right? So the sanatorium was built because basically people with TB back in the day would pretty much be shunned out of the community. Obviously because, this was a death sentence, and Waverly Hills was a place where they could all thrive and hopefully recover because they were, people... I don't know. I think they knew. I didn't look that up. I didn't look up how you contracted TB, but I can't remember. I don't think it's through the air. It might be like contact, like if someone drinks something and then you drink after them. I don't know.
Okay. I was going to say, why didn't I hear this much in history?
Tuberculosis?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I heard a little bit, but but it was like, like us right now with the coronavirus.
That's what people don't understand.
Wear mask and everything. They didn't wear mask and everything.
Yeah, so I don't think it was airborne, but like TB, freaking polio, all that used to be diseases and viruses and stuff that they had to come up with a vaccine for. So it's not like COVID is the first virus to ever be out there. That's why we take half of the immunization shots that we take when we're younger. So in 1928, a nurse named Mary Hellenberg was found hung right outside room 502. Some believe that she committed suicide because she got pregnant with a married doctor's baby. Others believe that Mary did not commit suicide, that her suicide was staged, because a nurse that found her said that she had, in the report from back then, a nurse that found her said that she was hanging, but she was covered in blood. So how do you get covered in blood if you just hang yourself? Some people think that Mary died because her lover, the doctor, tried to force her to have an abortion, and it started to go wrong, so then they staged the hanging. Some rumors say that the fetus was found on property later, but those are just rumors. Another tragedy in 1932 occurred in room 502. It's rumored that the nurse jumped to her death from out of the window. Paranormal investigators say that room 502 has a lot of activity with energy surges, temperature fluctuations, and even voices. Some pictures have even been taken of Mary standing outside the door of 502, and I'll post that picture. Some mediums have said they have even communicated with Mary. So I thought that was pretty cool. And the picture that they have, that I'll post, is pretty neat. It's like an apparition of a woman, and she's literally she's naked, but she's standing outside the door, up against it. It's weird. The sanatorium was operational from, like I said, 1910, 1920, somewhere in there, to 1961. In the 1940s, they found antibiotics and cures for TB and, different things that came about. So it wasn't really a death sentence anymore. Patient population started to fall, and then they eventually closed. However, it was estimated that over 8,000 deaths occurred at Waverly Hills while it was operational. But some believe that number could actually be close to 63,000 people that have been recorded to have lost their lives.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people. Which, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was 63,000 because there's no telling how many people, had to go there, for the disease. But I guess, it's not like the hearses were starting to like roll in there on a daily, and then the doctors were like, let's use the body chute. Yeah. So, because I was sitting there thinking, if I was there, I'd be like, probably not going to get out of here, so I'm just going to go back home. I wonder how many people went there to think that they were going to possibly get cured.
But then it didn't happen. But then also, where did they put these they put them down the chute?
That part I'm not sure. I couldn't find any information. I
wonder if they just threw them.
I don't know if they did that or like buried them somewhere underground, or I don't think they burned the bodies. It wasn't like the bubonic plague where they burned the bodies for that. But
like, that's kind of scary because ghosts would be there if you just threw the bodies.
Oh yeah. So in 1962, the building reopened as an elderly home or like a geriatric home. So they had patients there with like dementia and, different things like that. Yeah. So some patients and staff even started noticing odd things happening. They would hear voices, see people dressed in old-fashioned clothing, and of course have the, cold spells in the rooms and all that other stuff that would be going on. Yeah. So, but some people would just play it off that, it's just, old man Jenkins over there. He's got dementia, so he's just seeing stuff. But even like nurses and people like that saw it. So I don't understand why they would think that would, they blamed it on their Alzheimer's.
Autism. Yeah, autism. What?
You can't say it in school.
Yeah. I was like, Alzheimer's.
In 1981, the state closed the elderly center because they found that the elderly patients were actually being neglected, and they were actually falsifying records. So, I'm assuming that meant and that's what made me think that maybe that's where American Horror Story
got that
picked that part of it, because it was, they were falsifying records, so people that actually weren't supposed to be there were there, and all kinds of shady stuff like that. People who came to search for ghosts say that they see an elderly woman running through the halls on the first floor, crying for help, with blood dripping from her wrists and ankles because she had chains hanging from them. So she was chained up when she died. No one knows who she is, but some believe that she was a patient at the geriatric center. In the 1980s, a developer purchased the property and was going to convert it into a maximum security prison. A lot of people protested this, and it didn't sell and it didn't go through. And then 20 years, over the past 20 years, several people were going to develop it into something else, and something would always happen and it would fall through. Meanwhile, a lot of residents were sneaking in and vandalizing the place. So we're going to talk about one story from these teenage boys. So one story is that 3 teen boys who went to the sanatorium to graffiti it and vandalize and be little turds, they had a ghost experience. They made it to excuse me. They made it to the hills, and the one teen boy started spraying the walls with his graffiti, while the other 2 of his friends were in the next room. He could hear them breaking stuff and basically vandalizing the place. The radio suddenly let out a huge burst of static noise. One of the boys stopped and looked around. They had heard all of the ghost stories before, but didn't really believe them. The boys all started running whenever one of them saw a security guard. So apparently they have security there now, or they did at this time.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would just case the place, just walk around all the time.
I mean, it's a big building, so...
Yeah, it is. They ran into a room... So they started running down the hallway. They ran into a room at the end of the hall. And once they got into the room, the door slammed behind them. Slammed shut. He looked out of the little viewing window, like if you're in a insane asylum and you can see out the little viewing window. And he didn't see the security guard out there. Since they thought that they were safe, they tried to open the door. However, it did not move. There wasn't even a doorknob. They all started pushing the door and looking for some sort of latch. The boys had a flashlight, but it wouldn't stay on too long. It would only stay on for a few seconds at a time. They suddenly, started getting very cold as a breeze kind of would blow down, the back of their necks.
Yeah.
They started shivering, and the room started seeming to get darker and darker. Almost like if you stand and you just stand in some darkness and then you realize it just kind of feels like it keeps getting darker and smaller. It became like a heavy feeling for all three boys. One of the boys screamed that something scratched the back of his neck, but no one could see anything in the room, and they didn't know what that feeling was. All of a sudden, they started smelling the smell of urine, really bad urine. They began to scream, and they were trying to tell the security guard, "Come let us out, come let us out." They were banging and screaming, and finally the door flung open, and the security guard's flashlight filled the room.
It kind of sounds like a movie.
And blinded them, yeah. They all started saying something was in the room with them. Something grabbed me. It was cold in here. There's something in here. The security guard stopped and then showed them the door. And he showed them that the door didn't even have a latch. It wasn't even able to lock. So the door
couldn't lock.
It couldn't shut.
So somebody was just holding the door.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And so they all, as soon as that was over with, they all,
went home.
booked it out of there.
Peed
Yeah. Yeah.
I would have peed.
Didn't sleep that night.
When they smelled urine, it was just
one of the
them
boys. Yeah.
They were like, I don't know, guys. Must be the ghost. I didn't pee myself. I'm not scared.
When you take a tour of the sanatorium, you can still see the marks made by their scratches on the door, and I think one of the boys had a crowbar, and you can see the crowbar marks, but you will not see a door latch, and you will not see a lock. In 2001, Charles and Tina Mattingly purchased the property, and they have plans to turn it into a hotel. No, thank you.
Yeah, no, that's not gonna work.
You can take a tour, and they talk about the history and even the paranormal activity. So they do admit that there's paranormal activity. You can also stay the night over if you're brave enough. So yeah.
So it's a hotel now.
Well, it's supposed to become basically becoming a hotel.
I thought it was going to be like a museum for ghost activity or something like that.
I think that's probably what they're going to do. So, because it's going to be it's probably going to be what is that hotel? You know, the one that The Shining is based off of?
Oh, yeah.
So you can stay in that hotel, but they tell you, yeah, there's ghost activity in here for sure. So just, a lot of paranormal. And that's what they were talking about with this place, a lot of paranormal activity. You can go there and, a lot of, what's it called? Ghost hunters and people like that have been there.
I would not. You couldn't pay me enough.
I'm pretty sure there's probably a documentary about this place. I know I've seen something about it before. I feel like I have. I just can't remember what it was on. Maybe it was Hulu. I cannot talk today. Maybe it was Hulu or
Hulu.
Amazon
You know
Prime.
that TikTok where we can get some takeaway.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I told you guys this was a short episode, so that's pretty much it. We haven't even made it to 30 minutes.
Wow.
We're just 20 minutes. That's a short episode for us.
That's interesting, though. I like that.
Yeah, I thought it was just something short and sweet that we could do for you guys. Sweet. And we're talking about, ghosts, dead people.
Short and sweet.
Yeah.
Hangings. Abortion.
Yeah.
So
Children
sweet.
dying from TB.
And then breaking the lungs and everything. That
Yeah.
was I was like, I would hate that. My lungs hurt now.
That would definitely suck. So yeah, we are going to get part 2 of Jeffrey Dahmer up Friday. And I think when we when we go to like Spotify and iTunes and all that, I think we might start doing these bonus episodes on Tuesday. Post them on Tuesday.
Okay.
But we won't, as you guys know, we don't have a bonus episode every week. Like when we did the Night Stalker, that was just one that week, so. But anyways, so I hope you guys have a great night, and you can go ahead and go to our social media. Follow us on Instagram for sure, because we post like a bunch of different stuff there. Like that's where we update most of the stuff.
We post memes.
Yeah, we post memes too, of course. That one about BTK that I posted, that was hilarious.
I love that one.
Yeah.
That was funny.
It was my favorite. So yeah, and be on the lookout for Friday. We'll have good old Jeffrey back. We'll end it. We'll wrap it up. Man, it's intense. It's intense. And I might actually have some audio for that one as well. Like maybe towards the end. So, all right. Well, we'll see you guys later.